Blasphemous represents a huge jump for Studio The Game Kitchen, whose previous game was The Last Door, a pixel Lovecraftian adventure game. And this time, following a successful Kickstarter, we've gone to the world of Souls-like, for one of the most impressively looking pixel-style graphics I've seen in a game yet, and for their own take on this kind of difficult formula. But the story is that we are in a world that has been racked by what has been dubbed the miracle, and basically everybody's sins or virtues have become personified. And if you would guess that that can lead to some very crazy and disturbing religious imagery, then you are correct, sir or ma'am. And there's a lot to this game that I don't think I should really show in this video, because it may get things demonetized or flagged due to content. But this is a game that it has an amazing look to it. And don't be distracted or be dismayed by the pixel graphics, as there is a level of detail here in terms of enemy designs and animations that certainly stands out. But the general gameplay is definitely on the action side. Your character here, the Pendant One, can attack, move, cast a spell/prayer, and has a very powerful repose that can be used. The gameplay is split between combat and platforming, and there's certainly a lot of focus on the platforming side that we'll come back to in a few minutes. The world itself is non-linear, to some degree similar to the Dark Souls or to the Souls-like series, by the fact that you have different areas that you must go through, but for each section of the game you are free to explore them at your leisure and decide where to go to first. The actual mechanics or progression is built more into finding these keys than it is in terms of finding new powers or unlocks. The game, as you can see, is also filled with a lot of lore and items that can be used as side grades. You have prayer beads that can give you various passive benefits, the Mi Culpa hearts, which basically change how you approach the game, usually giving you a benefit but at the cost of something else. Relics, which are pretty much the only real form of quote-unquote Metroidvania elements to it, as they'll be used to unlock new areas, but is only limited to specific encounters. And that's very important to say. Blasphemous is definitely not a Metroidvania game. You do not gain any real movement tech or new movement-based abilities to get around the world differently. What you have in the beginning is pretty much all you need to get through the rest of the game. And with that said, combat definitely falls more on the basic side of things. Again, your most important aspect is going to be the ability to repose and counter enemies like that. Fever, which is the blue bar that you see at the top of the screen, is kind of like your spell or mana pool. And Fever base attacks do a ton of damage. So much so that basically high level play is going to be about exploiting that to quickly kill enemies or deal with some of the more annoying threats. And as per this kind of design, there are plenty of side quests, bonus areas, secrets, false walls, and all that other great stuff that's going to keep fans occupied for some time. And developers have also promised additional DLC in the form of a New Game Plus, a Nightmare or Horror difficulty, and maybe other surprises, which at the time of this recording are not in the game yet. But this is a game that pretty much knows what it wants to be from the very first minute and doesn't let go until the end. And with that said, there's not a lot that I could say I have problems with Blasphemous, and most of my issues are falling more on the nitpick side of things. And we're going to talk about that next, after a quick word to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. And now for a quick thank you to our current Game Wisdom sponsors and Patreon supporters. And if you'd like to continue the discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. In terms of difficulty, Blasphemous kind of falls on the medium hard, or I guess hard light, if that makes any sense, side of things. The real threat of death in this game is not really from the combat, although if you're not good at reposing, you're going to get into trouble, but definitely comes from the platforming. While it may not look it from the screenshots or the video that you've seen so far, this game features a lot of hard jumps. They are almost hitbox precise in terms of making the leaps off of these edges, and you're going to be doing that a lot over pits and spikes, which are one-hit kills. When you die, thankfully the punishment is not that severe. You'll always keep your resource, the Tears of Atonement in the upper right, but your essentially feather bar becomes kind of segmented or becomes locked until you recover those points or guild fragments. But even then, it's definitely not as bad as possibly losing all your souls in Dark Souls or Bloodborne or things like that. The real annoyance though comes in with the backtracking and kind of the distance that needs to be traveled in the game. There are only 5 fast travel points in Blasphemous, and there are certainly more areas on the map than that. And no matter where you can fast travel to, you're still going to spend a lot of time moving around on foot. And at some point, the enemies are just going to be more or less hurdles for you to jump over or just basically damage boost through, as opposed to wanting to fight them. And that's another issue with the enemy designs. One of the hallmarks of a Souls-like is having enemies who are essentially more than just a passive threat on the field. Anyone who's played Dark Souls or Bloodborne knows that for sure. Blasphemous' enemies don't really fall into any more than just an annoying threat. They're more about kind of being in the way of you doing platforming than you being in an area and having to fight in a hardcore battle. Even the arena fights that are in certain areas of this game don't necessarily get all that more interesting or complicated compared to fighting enemies normally. The only exception to this are the boss fights, who are all very well done. They are unique elements with random pattern design, and they are going to test you far more than the enemies. As an interesting touch, the game features an NPC you can call on to help you if you need it, but you only get 3 uses of them throughout the entire game. And there's definitely a smart sense of design throughout Blasphemous. Again, this is a game that it is what it is. And if everything that I've shown you so far has you excited, then you are going to enjoy this game. If it's not hitting you yet, then this may not be the game for you. The only other, I think, real complaint I have with Blasphemous that is kind of disappointing is that there really aren't a variety of builds or tactics in this game. Again, another major part about Souls-like design is having multiple ways of playing. Range, spellcaster, fast weapon, heavy weapon, you get the picture. Blasphemous is focused entirely on the Mea Culpa sword, as well as a few of your prayers and your kind of like blood spell that you've seen me use a few times. And there really isn't a design here to allow for multiple ways of playing. And I'm sure speedrunners have already begun to optimize their way through this game. If you're hoping for kind of the build variety and decision making that we saw in something like Salt and Sanctuary, it is not here. And this game definitely is more action than it is adventure or even a loose RPG design. But I really enjoyed this one, and the world and lore building that's in it definitely gives it, I guess, credence or size to do more within it. And I hope the Game Kitchen decides to keep expanding and exploring on this. I would like to thank them for giving me a press key to check this one out. And like I said, while this game isn't for everybody, if what you see you're enjoying, then definitely consider picking up Blasphemous. And I hope that we do see more, at least in terms of expanding on the moment-to-moment gameplay in a future sequel or even in DLC. As we said in the last part, I'm curious to see what they're going to do for a New Game Plus or a Nightmare difficulty, as there were bonus elements that were announced or promised through their stretch goals that we have not seen yet. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Once again, this has been Blasphemous, and I will see you all next time for another great discussion on game design. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.